To save my daughter from being sold to an old bachelor by her own father, I ended up killing my husband in the struggle. During my 10 years in prison, I thought about my daughter every single day, wondering if she was okay. After my release, I worked myself to the bone to make it up to her, juggling 8 jobs a day just to put her through school. On the day she got her early admission to Tsinghua University, I was on a construction site, eating a cold steamed bun and drinking plain water. At the college entrance exam mobilization meeting, she cried and said, "My mother is a murderer and has never raised me. I've made it this far entirely through my own efforts." The whole internet praised her for being independent and strong, while I was bullied online to the point of despair and nearly jumped into the river. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I got out of prison. This time, I, the murderer mom, will definitely fulfill your wish, stay out of trouble and make something of yourself when you get out. The female guard's voice was flat and detached. The prison gates swung open, and the sunlight stabbed at my eyes. It's not a dream. I'm certain I've been reborn on the very day I was released from prison. In my past life, my daughter Sun Miao's father, my husband Sunny Feng, was an absolute scumbag. He was a chronic drunk, and when he was wasted, he'd beat people. Our daughter was always covered in bruises, old wounds layered with new ones, a patchwork of black and blue without a single patch of unmarked skin. That day when I came home from work, Sunny Feng was clutching a wad of crumpled banknotes, counting them with relish. My heart sank. "Where did you get that money?" He grinned smugly. "Where's Meow Meow?" My voice trembled. Sunny Feng waved his hand dismissively. "That worthless girl. Sold her to the old bachelor at the end of the village, got a bit of drinking money for her. I ran all the way to the old bachelor's house, kicking and fighting, and only managed to get my daughter back after using every ounce of my strength." The old bachelor came to demand money, and Sunny Feng grabbed a bottle and hurled it at him. I held my daughter tightly in my arms as glass shards cut across my forehead. Sunny Feng grabbed his daughter by the hair and dragged her toward the door. "Oh, Mom, help me." I gritted my teeth and grabbed the iron wrench. A dull thud echoed. The world fell silent. Sunny Feng has passed away. I was found guilty of excessive self-defense and sentenced to 10 years. After his release from prison, his daughter had just started her second year of high school. She crouched at the prison gate, small and frail. He kept his head down, his eyes darting away when meeting someone's gaze, carrying a cautious, nervous unease. At that moment, my heart ached as if pierced by a needle, the pain sharp and intense. I was desperate to make it up to her. When she said she wanted to get into Tsinghua, I started working day and night. I lived frugally, eating cold steamed buns and drinking tap water, washing dishes, delivering food, working construction sites, and smiling and drinking at KTVs, juggling up to 8 jobs a day, treating myself like a beast of burden, just to earn more money and give her the best. She charges 300 yuan for a single tutoring session. While I might not earn that much even after a grueling day of work, her academic performance improved steadily, and she was eventually admitted to Tsinghua University through a recommendation program. I thought the worst was over. Little did I know, I had raised a wolf in sheep's clothing. "Mom," a timid voice came from behind. "It's Sun Miao, just like in the last life, dark and skinny." I looked at her and slowly let a cold smile spread across my face. "In this life, Mom will take good care of you." I responded flatly. Sun Miao froze, clearly taken aback by my coldness. "Auntie said I should live with you from now on," she whispered. I kept my face expressionless. "I can't support you, but I found you a new place to go." Sun Miao's eyes widened. "But Mom, don't call me Mom." I cut her off. "I've been to prison. I don't deserve to be your mother." With that, I grabbed my meager bag and walked away without looking back. On the bus, she had somehow followed me without my noticing. In my past life, I clung tightly to Sun Miao, sobbing, "Mommy will never leave you again." In this life, I kept my eyes closed in meditation, not sparing her a single glance. This time, I will bring them into this world but not raise them. I mean what I say. I brought Sun Miao and knocked on the Sun family's door. "What are you doing here, Mrs. Sun?" asked, her face twisted in disgust the moment she saw me at the door. "I'm returning your Sun family's bloodline to you." I gave Sun Miao a slight push forward. Old man Sun sneered. "Our Sun family doesn't acknowledge a child born to a murderer." I smiled. "Not only does she have a murderer for a mother, she also has a human trafficker for a father. What's the matter? Do I need to go make a scene at your younger son's workplace and let everyone know why his brother really died?" Sunny Feng's younger brother worked for a state-owned enterprise. He was terrified of this kind of scandal. It could very well cost him his job. Sun Miao hung her head, her fingers twisting the hem of her clothes. After a moment of heavy silence, Sun's mother agreed through gritted teeth. I nodded and turned to leave. "Mom," Sun Miao suddenly grabbed my sleeve, her eyes brimming with tears. "Are you abandoning me?" I gently pushed her hand away. She suddenly broke down, screaming, "Mom, what are you saying? You killed Dad. How could Grandma and the others ever treat me well after that?" So, she had known everything from that moment on. I knew exactly why I had to kill that scum, and I knew who would truly be good to her. I ignored her wails and left the Sun residence alone. That evening, I returned to my rented room with groceries in hand. At the mouth of the alley, a small, frail figure was huddled in the corner. It was Sun Meow. "So you found me after all." She stood up and spoke timidly. "Mom, Grandma wants me to sleep in the storage room, and my cousin keeps pulling my hair. I don't want to stay at Grandma's house anymore. If you come to my place, you'll have to sleep with the cockroaches and rats," I said, pointing to the damp, dark alley outside my rented room. I sold the old house and gave part of the money to my sister. As compensation for raising Sun Meow all these years, I set aside a portion for myself. In my past life, I gritted my teeth and worked myself to the bone, refusing to sell the house, all because I wanted to provide Sun Meow with a good living environment. Now that I've sold the property in this area, I have a sizable amount of savings left, enough for me to coast along comfortably for many years on my own. Sun Meow hurried to reassure her mother. "It's okay, Mom, I can accept it." She paused, then added, "I can work hard, eat little, I'm easy to keep." Really, easy to care for. I softly repeated those 3 words. In my past life, it was those very words that made me willing to slave away without complaint. I remember her holding that trendy hoodie, the same one her classmate had, frowning as she said it wasn't as nice looking as the limited edition. I remember her complaining that her 300 yuan per session tutoring class wasn't as good as her classmate's 500 yuan one. I remember after she went viral, fans dug up her social media account, used as proof of her indomitable spirit, which was filled with posts like, "My mom never spends time with me, forget amusement parks, she's never even taken me to a regular park," watching other classmates holding their mother's hands. "I can only tell myself I don't need it. There's a parent-teacher conference today, and Mom used being busy as an excuse again. I'm the only one in the whole class without a parent here. I know she's lying. She's probably just embarrassed by me. It's fine, I don't care anymore." Not every woman who becomes a mother deserves the title, nor does she know how to love her own child. Books say a happy childhood can heal a lifetime, while an unhappy one takes a lifetime to heal. My childhood, I suppose, is a wound that will never truly heal. Every word cuts like a knife into my heart. I let out a sigh and began my act. "How am I supposed to support you, Sun Meow? Tell me, all those years you were at your aunt's." Even though I was inside, I never stopped thinking about you. I know it wasn't easy for her to raise you. To repay that debt, I sold the old house. I took out my phone and showed her the transfer record. "See, I gave all 500,000 to your aunt. You still have high school, then university ahead of you. Everything costs money, but me, I just got out. I have no job. What company would hire someone with a prison record? I can barely keep myself afloat." Sun Meow lowered her head, silent, her expression unreadable. Her eyes brimmed with tears, and she said in a small voice, "Mom, I just want to go to school and have something to eat. That's all I need." She knew this was the best lifeline she could grasp at the moment. Looking at the girl in front of me, I finally gave in. "All right then." I stared straight at her. "I'll cover your basic tuition and the mandatory meal plan from the school cafeteria. That's it. Clothes, spending money, extra tutoring, hobby classes. Don't even think about it." Thank you, Mom." Sun Meow nodded quickly, her eyes crinkling into crescent moons in the dim light. On closer inspection, she looked very much like me once. It was the only thing that kept me going in prison, but now, I won't be fooled by that seemingly well-behaved and pitiful facade anymore. Just 2 days later, I received a call from Sun Meow's homeroom teacher. "What's meant to be will find its way." In my previous life, my homeroom teacher told me that Sun Meow had excellent math grades. Winning an award in the Olympiad could add a golden touch to her college entrance exam application, even opening a direct path to top universities. And so, the curtain rose on my own self-destruction. I remember it vividly. I was on the construction site, trying to earn money for her training fees, when a loose brick fell and hit my hand. My little finger was bent out of shape instantly, the pain searing right to the bone. My coworkers urged me to go to the hospital, but my first thought was to call her, afraid she'd worry if she couldn't find me. On the phone, she told me there was a parent-teacher conference at school today. I didn't want her to worry, so I just said vaguely, "Mom's busy today and can't make it." She fell silent for a moment on the other end, then simply said "oh" and hung up. Later I found out that she had posted again on social media that day, "Today is parent-teacher meeting," but Mom made an excuse about being busy and refused to come. In the whole class, I'm the only one without a parent. I know she's lying to me, but it's okay, I don't care anymore. The accompanying image shows an empty playground outside the window, the loneliness almost spilling out of the screen. I tucked away the memories and let out a cold laugh. Math Olympiad class. Don't even think about it. I dug out the shabbiest clothes from the bottom of the closet, stained with paint spots and cement dust that wouldn't wash off. I stood before the mirror again, tousling my hair into a mess and even smudging a bit of dirt on my face, making myself look travel-worn and utterly exhausted. Looking at my reflection, I smiled with satisfaction. In my past life, there was a time when I went straight from the construction site to pick her up at the school gate, still in my work clothes. The way her face instantly froze when she saw me, and how she immediately grabbed her classmate and pretended not to know me, walking the other way, that scene is still vivid in my memory. From then on, no matter how tired or busy I was, I always made sure to tidy myself up before seeing her, terrified of embarrassing her. But now I can't wait for her to truly understand what it's like to have such an embarrassing mother. Stepping into the bright, spotless office, my outfit felt completely out of place. The homeroom teacher and Sun Meow both turned to look at me at the same time. The homeroom teacher's face showed undisguised astonishment, while Sun Meow's reaction was far more intense. Her face flushed crimson all the way to the tips of her ears. I knew I had embarrassed her again. Hello, teacher, I'm Sun Meow's mother. I came straight from work and didn't have time to change. I'm terribly sorry about my appearance. Miss Lee quickly composed her expression. Mrs. Sun, thank you for coming in today. The main reason I asked to see you is to discuss Sun Meow's academic progress. Her recent math test scores have been exceptionally high. All of us teachers agree that she shows a real talent for mathematics. There's a national math Olympiad competition next month. Winning an award could be a tremendous help for her future, whether it's for independent university admissions or even a direct recommendation for enrollment. She paused, seeing my impassive face, before continuing. So, the school's recommendation is for Sun Meow to join the intensive pre-competition training course. Each session costs roughly $300. The office was quiet. Occasionally, another teacher or a student representative would come in to hand in assignments or fetch something, their gaze lingering on me for a moment. How much? I exclaimed, my voice suddenly sharp, successfully drawing the attention of everyone in the office. $300 for one class. Good heavens, that's not teaching, that's daylight robbery. I slapped my thigh, pretending to be utterly shocked. Teacher, to be honest, I just got out not long ago, and I still have a criminal record. I can't find a decent job, so I'm stuck working on construction sites or washing dishes at restaurants. I work myself to the bone every day, earning barely $100 or so, and still have to support my wife and me. I could feel the glances, intentional or not, suddenly grow hot. Whispers drifted in faintly. Been to prison? Oh my god, Sun Meow's mom, didn't she say last time that her parents run a company? My voice boomed. Her father died young, and I was no good, ended up in prison. The family's been scraping by, barely a penny to our name. We simply can't afford such expensive lessons. Mom, please stop. Sun Meow's eyes were red-rimmed as she tugged hard on my sleeve. Why are you saying all this? I feigned innocence. Meow meow, my dear daughter, Mom knows you're trying so hard. It's Mom who's let you down. I then turned to the homeroom teacher, who looked deeply uncomfortable. Teacher, what do you think of this plan? I'll borrow the money. I'll go begging to relatives and friends on my knees. I'll sell my blood. I'll sell everything we own. I'll scrape together that training fee somehow. I absolutely cannot let my daughter's future be ruined. Sun Meow hung her head even lower, almost burying it in her chest. She suddenly yanked her hand away, and tears welled up in her eyes. Are you done yet? Fine, I'm not going anymore. With a shriek, she covered her face and fled the office without a backward glance. I watched her retreating figure, then slowly sat up straight, my face calm. Great, now, almost everyone in the school must know about it by now. Sun Meow has a mother who served time in prison, is poor, and works as a laborer on construction sites, and she was ashamed of her mother, who she felt brought her nothing but disgrace. I didn't go after her. Leaving school under the warm afternoon sun, I hailed a cab and headed to the mall. This one, and that one, I'd like to try them all on. My finger glided along the rack. The clothes, jewelry, and cosmetics I couldn't afford in my past life, I now buy without hesitation. Turns out, spending money on yourself feels genuinely good. I even had a hearty dinner at a restaurant in the evening before leisurely heading home. In the evening, Sun Meow had already finished school and was sitting upright. Is this what you mean by no money? Is this the reason you can't even afford a 300 yuan math Olympiad class per session? She pointed at the bags and packages in my hands and questioned me. I watched her fury, and my heart turned cold, almost making me want to laugh. Look at this. My wonderful daughter, in her eyes, all my money is rightfully hers. By birth, and I don't deserve to have anything of my own, I retorted without thinking. Do I have to spend every penny I have on you? Who said so? Are you satisfied now? Satisfied with what? Do you have to humiliate me like this, letting everyone know I have a mom who's been to prison and works washing dishes at a restaurant? How am I supposed to face anyone at school now? To mistreat, Sun Miao, I said slowly, each word deliberate. I, Qing Ju, just got out of prison, have no stable job, and now I'm washing dishes at a restaurant. Isn't that the truth? You think this is humiliating because, in your heart, having a mother like me is already a stain on you, right? She glared at me but couldn't utter a single word in rebuttal. How you hold your head up at school is your own business. I have neither the obligation nor the ability to protect your fragile self-esteem. You hate me, don't you? You hate me for not coming to see you at Auntie's house back then. She was backed into a corner, so she was aware. After all, she also knew that, for those 10 years, she had never once come to see me, even if it's just through a glass window, even if it's just a letter. Listen carefully, the only reason I'm raising you is because the law says I'm your biological mother. That's it, there's nothing else. At night, lying in bed, I could hear it clearly from the next room, muffled, fragmented sobs in a past life. Hearing cries like that would have shattered my heart. I would have rushed over immediately, held her in my arms, apologized over and over, and promised to grant her every wish. But now I turned over and closed my eyes. Early in the morning, I was a bit surprised when I pushed open the door. The living room was spotless, with a bowl of plain porridge and steamed buns set on the dining table. Sun Miao was different from yesterday. Mom, you're awake. I made breakfast. I raised an eyebrow but didn't respond. Just sat down by myself. She looked at me nervously and said, Mom, I need to talk to you about something. What is it? She pulled a promissory note out of her pocket. Mom, I was wrong about what happened yesterday. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. But I really want to go to that tutoring class. I want to get into a good university, get a great job, and then I'll be able to repay you and take care of you properly. So I wrote this IOU. Treat this money as a loan from you, and I'll pay you back double once I start working. Is that okay? I have to admit, she's smarter than I thought. She knew when to stop pushing and immediately switched tactics. What I've always wanted was never to push her to the brink. If she knew how to be grateful, she and I could have gotten along peacefully. Not impossible. I'll think about it. Sun Miao's eyes lit up instantly, and she kept saying, Thank you, Mom. The joy seemed so genuine. However, the comeuppance came swiftly. That very evening, I came across a post that was quickly gaining traction. Its title was jarring. My mom wants me to sign an IOU. The poster was anonymous, but the tone, the details, who else could it be but Sun Miao? There are already quite a few replies below. Hugs to you. OP, that kind of family background sounds truly heartbreaking. Some parents simply aren't fit to be parents, useless themselves and a burden to their kids. Math Olympiad classes are expensive, but Mom's reaction was way over the top. She could have at least talked it out properly. Keep going, you can get into a great university on your own and stay away from them. Look, she's still going with the same old routine. I also replied anonymously with a paragraph. As far as I know, the poster's mother just got out of prison, and they're genuinely struggling financially to repay the kindness of relatives who raised her. She even sold the house. Dreams are important, but you also have to take real-life circumstances into account. In the evening, Sun Miao came home from school. Mom, money, she whispered. I slowly peeled the orange. What money? She paused for a moment, growing a bit flustered. The money for the Olympiad math class. You promised me this morning. Oh, that. No, I'm not lending it. I've already written the IOU. How can you go back on your word? Sun Miao's voice rose. I never said I'd lend it to you, just that I'd think about it. Besides, Mom believes in you. You can succeed without anyone giving you a boost. I flashed her a cheeky grin. She slammed the door shut. We had a period of peaceful coexistence. She goes about her daily routine at school, and I've found a job that's a bit more relaxed. The pay isn't high, but it's more than enough to support myself. I didn't waste a single moment of my remaining time. I signed up for several skill training courses, keeping my evenings and weekends completely packed. During this period, Sun Miao's homeroom teacher called me a few more times. Sun Miao has been zoning out in class lately, and her grades on several quizzes have dropped noticeably. If this trend continues, forget about a guaranteed admission spot. She might even struggle to get into a decent undergraduate program. Communication and guidance. You're absolutely right. I'll definitely have a serious talk with her later, I said into the phone, my tone so sincere it was beyond reproach. After hanging up, I tossed the phone onto the desk and went back to cramming from my textbook, communication, or guidance. Didn't she say it herself? Her admission to Tsinghua was all her own doing, has absolutely nothing to do with me, her mother. If that's the case, why bother? The days slipped by at their own unhurried pace, right up until the final exam results were posted that day. When I got home from work, I walked in to find Sun Miao sitting on the sofa with a grim expression, a report card glaringly laid out on the coffee table. The atmosphere feels off. I ignored her and headed to the kitchen to grab something to eat. Didn't you see that? I feigned confusion. See what? She tapped her finger firmly on it. The report card, my final exam results. I glanced at it with a pretense. My ranking dropped more than 10 spots compared to last time, especially in math. What I thought was my strong subject now seems pretty average. Oh, I see. I put the report card back in its place and asked flatly, what's wrong? What's wrong? Can't you see my grades are slipping? All my classmates are signing up for tutoring to get ahead. Are you really not going to sign me up for one? In her previous life, she wept bitterly, telling the world that her admission to Tsinghua University was entirely due to her own efforts. Her mother, a convicted murderer, had never raised her. How come she can't make it on her own this time without me? Her embarrassing mom, fighting tooth and nail to lift her up. Why on earth is that? It's so hard to guess, sweetheart. You know how things are at home. Mom only makes this much money. If we had the money, I'd have signed you up long ago. You're lying. She cut me off. I've known all along, you didn't give all the money from selling the house to Auntie. You're just too stingy to spend it on me. Seems she's been doing her homework. I couldn't be bothered to keep up the pretense. So what if I am? My tone clearly left her speechless. Fine, if that's how it is. I'm done with the housework starting today. I have to study every day. I don't have the time, nor the obligation, to wait on you. Oh, sweetheart, what are you talking about? When have I ever made you do chores? Before, it was you being so sensible, insisting on doing everything yourself. One more thing, starting tomorrow, I'm moving into the school dormitory. My eyes lit up. Living on campus is a great idea. More time for studying. I'm all for it. But, honey, the dorm fee is about $600 a semester. You'll need to figure that part out yourself. Bang, another loud slam of the door. Before I knew it, the final semester of senior year came rushing in. Mom, the college entrance exam pep rally is tomorrow, and the school requires all parents to attend. You have to be there. I'll be waiting for you, waiting for me so she can push me out there again, to face the scorn of everyone. Fine, what's meant to come will come. This time, I'm ready. Yeah, got it. On the day of the mobilization assembly, I sat in a corner of the parents section. Thank you to the school and the teachers. Today, I'd like to share my story. The audience quieted down a bit, and many wore curious expressions. My childhood was actually quite unfortunate. Her tears came as easily as her words. At the age when I needed a mother's love and companionship most, my mom was absent for 10 whole years. She's a murderer. Sun Miao's voice suddenly rose, choked with tears. She killed my dad by accident for money. A murmur began to spread like a rising tide. She wiped away a tear. I grew up relying on relative support, eating meals from 100 different households. Everyone else had a mother to love and care for them, but I didn't. I could only watch, only envy. After she got out of prison, she sold our family's only house, but even with the money from the sale, she refused to spend a single penny on me. I wanted to join the math Olympiad class, but she said we had no money and forced me to sign an IOU. I wanted to live on campus to focus on preparing for the college entrance exams, but she wouldn't even pay the 600 yuan boarding fee. Every day, she wears new clothes and uses makeup, yet she just stands by and watches me, unable to afford tutoring. Does someone like that even deserve to be called a mother? She cried out hoarsely. She gave birth but provides no care. She's utterly unfit to be a mother. The murmurs from the audience grew louder, and many parents' faces now showed undisguised anger and contempt. And that's not all. I had to get up before dawn every day to make her breakfast, and after school, I'd come home to clean the entire house and do the laundry. She treated me like a free life. In maid, with tears welling in her eyes, she looked out at the audience and said, having a mother who's a murderer might be my original sin, but I believe that through my own efforts, I can break free from all of this and build a bright future for myself. Thunderous applause erupted. Many of the more emotional parents and students even had tears in their eyes. In my previous life, it was these half-truths that turned her into an inspirational figure and me into a pariah, despised by all. Alas, In this lifetime, she miscalculated. I am no longer the Qin Jew who only knows how to weep in silence. Some truths cannot be buried forever by playing the victim and hiding key facts. I walked onto the stage. I need to correct a few mistakes in my daughter's earlier remarks. A sudden, profound silence fell over the audience, so complete you could have heard a pin drop. First, I turned to Sun Miao. I killed her father by accident. Not for money, it was because her alcoholic, abusive father was trying to sell her for money that I desperately tried to save her, and ended up accidentally killing him. I pulled out the prepared documents from my pocket. This is a copy of the court verdict from back then, clearly written in black and white that it was excessive self-defense, and he paid for it with 10 years of freedom. I turned to Sun Miao, her face as pale as paper. Miao Miao, why didn't you say earlier why your father died? Her lips trembled, and not a word came out. Second, I sold the house because Sun Miao lived with her aunt for 10 years, this act of raising her I felt I had to repay. Third, the IOU was written by you voluntarily, trying to persuade me to lend you money for your math Olympiad class. I didn't force you, and in the end, I didn't lend it to you, because I believed, given our family's financial situation at the time, we should act within our means. I took out a USB drive. As for the housework, Sun Miao, have you actually counted how many times you've made breakfast and cleaned up? I admit it, I've been to prison, I'm not a perfect mother, and I can't give you a life of comfort or meet all your needs. You can blame me for being poor, for being powerless, but I once truly loved you. At this point, my nose feels a little sore. The situation turned around in an instant. Someone was quick enough to record the entire event and uploaded the video online. Sun Miao's social media accounts were completely doxed, with netizens dissecting and attacking every single post. The comment section was completely overrun. It's terrifying when you think about it. She knows full well her mother went to prison to save her, yet she still has the gall to twist the truth like this, posting a sob story to incite an online mob against her own mother. This goes beyond immaturity. This is malicious, downright vicious, the epitome of an ungrateful wretch. Oh my God, sold by her own father at 6, her mother went to prison for 10 years to save her, sold the house to repay the kindness after getting out, and all she remembers is her mom not signing her up for tutoring. What kind of messed up values are those? If I were her mother and knew she turned out like this, I'd have let her fend for herself long ago, and I still paid for her education. Talk about going above and beyond. Sun Miao's aunt, who is also my sister, chose this moment to post a lengthy article detailing the origin of that 500,000 yuan, accompanied by photos she had taken of Sun Miao every year on her birthday. From childhood to adulthood, she said that when Sun Miao was little, she was afraid her classmates would find out she had a mother in prison, so she told her to hide everything about me. But she never expected that her child would grow up to be so cold-hearted. In the end, I stepped in to stop the cyberbullying, compared to how she stood by, even egging people on, while netizens attacked me in my past life. I've already gone above and beyond what's fair. On the eve of the college entrance exam, Sun Miao's classmate came to our door with their parents. Sun Miao is holed up in his room and refuses to come out. This is an IOU from Sun Miao to my daughter for 1,000 yuan. There are several more just like it, adding up to over 5,000 in total. I won't even mention the other times she borrowed money for things like her meal card. No matter how many times I've asked, not a single cent has been paid back. I took the IOU and looked at the familiar handwriting. It dawned on me that these promissory notes were her usual trick. So, her whole story about living on campus and not having enough for the cafeteria, it was all just an excuse. All the money she saved from me, the cash she wheedled out of me with excuses, and the loans she got from her classmates, she spent it all on trendy clothes and chasing after celebrities. Her classmate then listed a few other names, which I noted down one by one, and I paid off all her debts for her. The national college entrance exam arrived as scheduled without the painstaking efforts from my previous life and the boost from expensive tutoring classes. Sun Miao's results were unsurprisingly doomed to fail in the end. She only got into a local, run-of-the-mill second-tier university, and her major was assigned through adjustment, a world of difference from being directly admitted to Tsinghua University in her previous life. Before the university semester started, I called her into the living room. I handed her an envelope. This covers your 4 years of university tuition. I'm giving it to you all at once, and it's more than enough, Mom, thank you, she whispered. You're welcome. I looked at her, then pulled another document from under the coffee table. Sign this one, too. It was a formal severance of family ties between her and me. Mom, what is this? Because of what I said on stage, I didn't want to explain further. Yes, precisely because of that, I'm angry, and I won't forgive you. She thinks I'm being unreasonable. Sun Miao, I've raised you until 18 and supported you through college. My duty is fulfilled. From now on, your affairs have nothing to do with me, and when I grow old, I won't need your care. Our bond ends here." Tears welled up instantly in her eyes. "Mom, I know I was wrong. I really, truly know I was wrong. I'll change, I promise, okay?" She lunged forward to grab my hand, but I gently sidestepped. I looked at her. "I gave you plenty of chances. From the moment you never once visited me in prison. From when you were ashamed of having a mother like me. From when you twisted the truth and accused me. From when you took everything I did for you for granted and even resented me for it. We were always destined to end up here." She kept apologizing. "Son Meow, some wounds can't be healed with a simple 'I'm sorry.' Just as I will never forgive your father for trying to sell you all those years ago, I can never forgive you either." I pointed at the agreement. "Sign it. It's a release for both of us. You won't have to carry the stain of having a murderer for a mother anymore, and you won't have to resent the woman who gave you life but couldn't raise you. You can finally stand on your own 2 feet and start your new life." She finally understood. This time, I really didn't want her anymore. I picked up the signed agreement and carefully put it away. There was no imagined sense of triumph, nor too much sorrow, only an unprecedented feeling of ease. Yes, easy. The shackles that weighed on me for over a decade have finally been completely cast off. I am not a perfect mother. I have acted on impulse, and I once longed for my maternal love to be met with equal return, but now, I no longer need that. The day after Sun Meow started university, I packed my bags and moved out. Without notice, without farewell, I left the city. I headed to a small coastal town in the south and used the money I'd saved up to take over a little flower shop. Life here moves at a gentle pace, blessed with a pleasant climate, and each morning begins with the soothing sound of waves. For years have passed in the blink of an eye. That day, I received an anonymous package. Inside was a letter and a bank card. The letter contained only 3 words: "It's settled." The balance on the card was exactly enough to cover Sun Meow's 4 years of university tuition. She was still the same as ever, naive and selfish, believing that this way could somehow make up for everything. "All right then, it's settled." The end. That's all for the first story. Stay tuned. The next one is even more exciting. My freshman son got his girlfriend pregnant. 2 people who haven't even reached the legal age for marriage, and who are still financially dependent on their families. How can they possibly provide for the future of a child? But my son fell to his knees, weeping as he pleaded, "Mom, can you let the baby be born and register it under your and Dad's name?" To my surprise, my husband agreed. "But this is our own grandchild," he said. "It would be such a shame to terminate the pregnancy." It is a shame, but compared to a grandchild who hasn't even been born yet, our son's future is obviously the most important thing. I was just about to refuse when my husband suggested we get a sham divorce. He would then marry our son's girlfriend, and after the child's household registration was settled, he would remarry me. I looked at him deeply for a moment, then nodded in agreement. My son's girlfriend is 3 months pregnant. Just as he's been at university for 3 months, I'm not exactly in the best of moods. I asked him what he planned to do, and after a lot of hemming and hawing, he said he wanted to keep the baby. The pent-up fury inside me finally erupted, and I couldn't help but snap at him sharply. "Chin Kong, do you think having a child is that simple? How on earth would you support it once it's born? You can't even support yourself. You're still living off your family." My son turned pale from my scolding and called out to me in a tearful voice, "Mom." I really wanted to slap him across the face, but seeing how scared he was, I couldn't help but soften. "Son, I know you're reluctant, but neither you nor your girlfriend have even started college yet. Your lives are just beginning. You can't let this child ruin everything. I'm sure your girlfriend's parents would think the same if they knew." After a pause, I said, "You were in the wrong here, and we accept that. When her parents come, whether they want to scold or even hit you, I'll be right there with you. Don't be afraid." Hearing my words, my son's face was filled with guilt. "Mom, I'm sorry," he said. I felt a slight sense of relief. It was enough that he knew he was wrong, but the next second, my son dropped to his knees with a thud before me, his eyes reddening as he pleaded, "Mom, I know you mean well, but this is my child. I just can't give up on him." He asked through tears, "Mom, can we have the baby and register it under your and Dad's names?" Hearing this, Chin Pain, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke up, "Honey, this is our own grandchild. It would be such a shame to abort it. Our son's idea is a good one," she said. "As long as no one outside the family finds out, it won't affect his future." I was absolutely furious. "That's a child, not a potato. How could you possibly keep it hidden?" But he wasn't fazed, saying, "If that doesn't work, we'll fake a divorce. I'll marry my son's girlfriend, and once the child's household registration is sorted, We'll remarry. I was taken aback, too, somehow. I suddenly remembered that cheesy short drama I'd been binge-watching lately during the car accident. The male lead's best friend died trying to save him. At his girlfriend's funeral, he collapsed and was later found to be pregnant. To give his best friend's child a legitimate identity, the protagonist proposed a sham divorce to his wife and married his friend's girlfriend instead. The male protagonist's wife agreed to help repay a debt of gratitude for her husband, unaware that her husband had already been having an affair with his best friend's girlfriend, and the child was actually the protagonist's. The realization of what I was thinking jolted me back to my senses. Chin Jianping is 50 this year. If his son's girlfriend was his classmate, she'd be the same age as his son, with a 30-year age gap. That just doesn't add up. Besides, he's my own flesh and blood. He wouldn't lie to me about something like that, right? Seeing my son still looking at me anxiously, I steadied myself and said, "Let's meet your girlfriend tomorrow first, and then we'll see. This isn't something we can just decide on our own. We need to hear what the young lady has to say." My son nodded and asked tentatively, "Mom, should I head back to school for now?" I nodded in agreement. He dashed off in a flash, but not before shooting his dad a meaningful look on his way out. After he left, Chin Jianping massaged my temples and said, "Don't get so worked up, dear. You need to watch your blood pressure. Ever since our son went off to college, you've seemed so listless every day. Having this child will give you something to look forward to." I swatted his hand away irritably. "Don't be ridiculous. A child isn't some kind of amusement." He laughed and backed down. "You're right. My mistake. Didn't you always want another child before? Back then, family planning policies didn't allow it, but now it's like we're having a second child. Perfect timing, right?" And my son showed me a photo of the girl. "She's really pretty, has a great figure, and is very smart. She even participated in a math competition during high school." Chin Jianping went on and on, listing the virtues of his son's girlfriend in an attempt to persuade me. I don't know if I'm being overly sensitive, but a father really shouldn't be commenting on his son's girlfriend's figure. The doubts I had suppressed began to resurface quietly. My mind was a jumbled mess. One moment I was thinking about my son getting that girl pregnant, the next about Chen Jianping's absurd suggestion of a fake divorce, and that phrase, "she has a great figure," kept echoing in my head. Over and over a throbbing pain pulsed at my temples, making my head ache. My blood pressure must be spiking again. At this, Chin Jianping added, "Honey, the young girl is probably quite shaken up too. When we meet her tomorrow, please don't say anything harsh." Hearing those words, I suddenly turned my head to look at him. I waited until he started squirming under my gaze before saying, "Don't worry. If I have anything harsh to say, it'll be aimed at men like you who can't keep it in their pants." He paused for a moment, then changed the subject. "Why don't you sit and rest for a bit? I'll go start dinner." With that, he turned and went into the kitchen, watching him hum a tune cheerfully as he washed and chopped the vegetables. A bitter taste filled my heart. Earlier, I was so furious about our son's situation that my mind went blank, but now, thinking it over, Chen Jianping's reaction as a father was utterly bizarre. His barely adult son had gotten a girl pregnant and was insisting on keeping the baby. He should have been shocked, furious. Even slapping the boy a few times would have been a more fitting response. Instead, he casually said, "What a shame to get rid of it," and then swiftly came up with that absurd idea of a fake divorce. One is the partner who has walked with me through 30 years of marriage. The other is my biological son, whom I carried for 10 months and raised for 18 years. If they truly, the mere thought of that possibility feels like a tight grip on my heart, making it ache so badly I can't catch my breath. I slumped weakly against the sofa, tempted several times to rush into the kitchen and demand answers from Chin Jianping, but ultimately decided to wait until I met my son's girlfriend tomorrow. What if I'm just overthinking because of hormonal changes during menopause? Early the next morning, after having breakfast with Chin Jianping, we set out from home. My son attends a local university, and it's about an hour and a half's drive to get there. We had arranged to meet at a cafe across from the campus. When we arrived at the private booth, my son and his girlfriend were chatting and laughing, but they both looked tense as soon as they saw us. I looked over my son's girlfriend carefully. Even in a simple t-shirt and jeans, she couldn't hide her youthful energy. She was truly beautiful, and when her eyes looked at people with a timid, shy expression, she seemed heartbreakingly delicate. I pushed aside my distractions and spoke gently. "Yiding, Chen Kong has already told us about your situation. He should have shared my opinion with you as well. We asked you to meet today just to check in. What's your take on this?" She glanced at her son and said, "Auntie, this child is the fruit of love, and I want to bring him into the world." The fruit of love, sure enough. that's a young person's way of thinking. A flicker of mockery passed through my eyes as I asked her, and then what? After it's born, you and Chin Kong aren't even old enough to marry legally, and you can't support yourselves. How are you going to raise a child, relying on your love? Her eyes instantly welled up with tears. Chin Jianping frowned and said, Lining, don't be so harsh, direct. Lu Yiting shot him a grateful look watching their silent exchange. I figured Chin Jianping was implying that I was being too blunt. I said bluntly, I'm just telling it like it is. If she can't handle this, just wait until the baby is born. There will be a lot more straight talk coming her way. I emphasized the word straight with particular force. Lu Yiting lowered her head and began to cry softly, looking so pitiful it made me seem like a villainous mother-in-law from a melodramatic TV drama. Sun said discontentedly, Mom, didn't we agree yesterday? The baby will be born and registered under your and Dad's names. I looked straight into my son's eyes and asked, have you thought it through? Is this really your choice? A flicker of guilt passed through the son's eyes, but he still replied, Mom, I've made up my mind. Seeing his expression, what was there left for me not to understand? The flesh and blood born from my own body has turned into a dagger aimed at my heart. After a long silence, I heard my own voice echo in the compartment. All right, I agree. 5. After making the decision, the stone that had been weighing on my heart suddenly lifted. I took a moment to really feel it, and to my surprise, my mood was much calmer than I had expected. You're right, I'm 48 now, more than halfway through life. If I still acted like the sky was falling every time something went wrong, what would have been the point of living all these years? A swirl of thoughts passed through my mind, and I smiled, my lips curling upward. Yiting, you're 3 months pregnant, soon your belly won't be able to hide it anymore. She instinctively placed a hand on her stomach. I continued with a smile, the dorm is crowded, it's inconvenient and not very safe. We'll rent an apartment for you, so you can move out. Lu Yiting glanced at Chin Kong, then stole what she thought was a subtle look at Chin Jianping before nodding obediently. All right, I'll listen to you, Auntie. I smiled without saying a word. After entrusting the task to the agent, the apartment was secured in less than a week. A 1-bedroom, 1-living-room unit not far from Chin Kong and Lu Yiting's school. I personally tidied up and added various decorative items like plants, cushions, and other small ornaments to the rental apartment. After arranging everything, it looked so cozy and inviting. On the day Lu Yiting moved in, I said to Chin Jianping, the shampoo and body wash I ordered just arrived. Could you drive over and drop them off for her? Chin Jianping left, carrying all his bags and bundles. Half an hour later, I checked my phone. On the surveillance feed, Chin Jianping had just walked into the rental apartment. Lu Yiting threw herself into his arms. Uncle, you came to see me. I've missed you so much, Chin Jianping said with a smile. I've missed you too. With that, the two kissed and then, arms wrapped around each other, made their way into the bedroom. See, the first piece of evidence, obtained just like that. But this is nowhere near enough. 6. Chin Jianping often goes to the rental house. Sometimes I sent him. Other times he went on his own. The excuses were always ready-made. Bringing food, bringing supplies, or if there was nothing to bring, just saying she was going to the school to see her son. Over time, all the neighbors found out that the young woman in apartment 402 had a boyfriend much older than her. Soon, winter break arrived. Lu Yiting is 5 months along, even with the loose winter clothes. It's quite noticeable now. I asked her, aren't your parents worried that you're not going home for the new year? Lu Yiting shook her head. My parents divorced when I was little. They both have their own families now. When I told them I found a winter job and wouldn't be coming back, they were actually quite pleased. I suggested with a smile, how about we have Chin Kong move in instead? He's your boyfriend, the father of the baby in your belly. Of course he should take care of you both. Lu Yiting and Chin Kong were both stunned, their eyes turning to Chin Jianping. Chin Jianping hesitated for a moment, then asked, how about inviting her to spend the new year at our place? I asked calmly. When it's time to register the child's household registration, you'll still have to go through a sham marriage with her. If you move in now, what will we tell people when they ask? He fell silent, and so, Chin Kong, who had just returned home for the holidays, was driven by Chin Jianping back to his rented apartment, a modest 1-bedroom place, lugging all his bags and belongings once more. I recalled the private investigator's report. Lu Yiting's family circumstances were difficult. Her father had passed away early, and her mother was seriously ill. To cover her tuition, she came to the city where her university was located early, during the summer break, to work and earn money. Yet this self-reliant young woman was dazzled by the city's glamour in just 2 short months, losing sight of her original aspirations. Lu Yiting's initial target was Chin Kong, But by a twist of fate, the spiked drink ended up being consumed by Chen Jianping with the deed already done. Lu Yiting had no choice but to dress up her scheme as genuine affection. A young, beautiful university student shyly professed that she didn't care about his age or social standing, she just wanted to be with him. Chen Jianping was swiftly captivated. Compared to Chen Kong, a student who relies on his parents for living expenses, Chen Jianping is a company owner, financially independent and generous with money, so Lu Yiting has no qualms about it. Even after the unexpected pregnancy, Chen Jianping went out of his way to give her a proper status, which made her even happier. But compared to that old man Chen Jianping, who needs pills just to get into bed, I'm sending the handsome and young Chen Kong right to her side, living under the same roof day and night. Do you really think nothing will happen? I'm really looking forward to it. 7. After moving into the rental apartment, Chen Kong has been sleeping on the sofa in the living room, but from the surveillance footage, I can see that he and Lu Yiting are getting along better and better. They watched movies, played games, and ate takeout together, laughing and teasing each other like a sweet young couple. While the scenario I had anticipated didn't come to pass, their physical contact only grew more frequent. As for Chen Jianping, there was no shortage of excuses to keep him from going to the rental apartment. Year-end is always a hectic time for the company. There's accounting to settle, client entertaining to manage, and all the social obligations with family to attend to buried under a mountain of trivial matters. He naturally began to neglect Lu Yiting. It was an ordinary day. Chen Kong and Lu Yiting were watching TV on the sofa when a chance glance passed between them. Lu Yiting made the first move, which took Chen Kong completely by surprise, but he didn't refuse. Their clothes began to disappear, and without even making it to the bedroom, they became entangled on the sofa, lost to everything else. During the New Year period, Chen Jianping was busier than ever, running around in circles. Whether it was business associates, relatives, or friends, everyone had to exchange New Year's greetings, and one banquet invitation followed another. I was also kept on my toes, preparing gifts, attending social functions, and helping with hospitality. Some days, by the end of it all, I was too exhausted to even speak. Meanwhile, Chen Kong, who was still in school, made an excuse to hang out with friends and instead went to find Lu Yiting. Chen Jianping was aware of this, but he trusted Chen Kong completely. In private, he even told him with a look of contentment, "Thank you for looking after Yiting for your dad, you've really grown up." He completely missed the flash of guilt in Chen Kang's eyes upon hearing those words. Once the New Year holiday ended, Chen Kong moved back into his school dormitory. Meanwhile, Lu Yiting took a leave of absence from school. She was 6 months pregnant and could no longer continue attending classes. Chen Jianping came to me and said, "In 2 months, Yiting will reach the legal age for marriage. I'm thinking of getting our marriage certificate before the baby is born, so it'll be easier to register the child's household. What do you think?" Looking at his calm and composed expression, I said with a smile, "I think it's fine. Let's go and file for divorce first." The next day, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. It was easier than I thought. I took a number, waited in line, filled out a form, signed it, and the registration was done in no time. The staff member routinely asked, "Have you settled the division of assets?" Chen Jianping paused for a second, then said, "All right." After they finished the divorce paperwork and stepped outside, Chen Jianping seemed to forget the whole matter and never brought it up again. Of course, I never brought it up the entire time. After all, it's a fake divorce. How could it involve property division? 8. Jianping Chen and I married for love. When we got married, we were both workers at a textile mill. Later, we were caught up in the wave of layoffs and lost our jobs together. We tried running a food stall, opening a barbershop, and driving a taxi, but none of those ventures worked out for various reasons. Eventually, leveraging the connections and experience we had gained at the textile mill, we opened a clothing store. Gradually, the business grew. We later opened a factory and caught the wave of rapid e-commerce growth during those years. With the money we made, we bought a villa and luxury cars. But soon after, my parents-in-law fell ill one after the other, and it coincided with our son, Kong Chen, starting high school. After careful consideration, I stepped back from the business to focus my energy on the family. To put my mind at ease, Chen Jianping handed over the reins of our household finances to me. Over time, I purchased 3 properties, all registered solely in my name. While the property market is sluggish, their combined market value is still around 7 to 8 million. I don't have much cash on hand, just a little over $1 million. Chen Jianping is aware of all this. I know him too well. It's not that he's generous, it's that in a straightforward divorce, I'd get a much larger share. Tricking me into a fake divorce means that when the truth comes out, These assets will be enough to silence both me and any outsiders. Besides, I'm almost 50, even if I remarried, I couldn't have children. Those properties would eventually go to Chen Kong and his child, so he wouldn't lose out. Most importantly, there's that factory with annual revenues in the millions. That's the real golden goose. As long as he has that factory, the money I have now is something he could earn back in just 2 or 3 years. But he seems to have forgotten that we built that factory together. We developed the suppliers, the clients, and the business partners side by side. All those connections he has, I have them too. What's more, I was in charge of the factory's finances for decades. I personally promoted quite a few people in the management team, even though I've been a housewife for a few years. If I want to know something, I can find it out. The day after we finalized the divorce, I met with the factory's second-in-command and got straight to the point with him. Ever thought about going solo? He looked at me in disbelief. I couldn't help but laugh at the sight of him. He finally snapped out of it and asked, "Sister-in-law, what do you mean by that? It's all over the place." Makes no sense. My smile faded a little as I said, "You've been running the factory's operations for years now. You could take the team and start your own shop tomorrow. As for the current orders, I can bring 60% of them with me." A flicker of attraction passed through his eyes. He was a founding member of the factory, having been recruited by Chen Jianping himself, who then steadily promoted him all the way to deputy director. Chen Jianping's kindness and support toward him could truly be described as a mountain of gratitude. All these years, watching the factory become more and more profitable while he was stuck on a fixed salary, he'd long wanted to strike out on his own. His breathing was a bit ragged, but he still asked cautiously, "This is no small matter, sister-in-law. I need to know the reason." I placed the divorce filing documents right in front of him and said mockingly, "Keeping a mistress, supporting a second woman, playing at true love. Take your pick." And he even tried to sweet-talk me into a fake divorce. Does he really think I'm an idiot? He blew up instantly, saying furiously, "I never thought Brother Chen was that kind of person. All these years, how you've treated him, we've all seen it. Has he ever deserved you?" His face was a picture of righteous indignation, but his eyes were full of laughter. I knew then that it was in the bag. We talked for a long time, and when he left, he was brimming with ambition from head to toe. As for me, I felt a sense of loss. Once I took this step, there was no turning back. Realizing what I was thinking, I laughed at myself. I must be getting old. In my younger days, I would have thrown a big party to celebrate. The 1-month cooling-off period for the divorce passed quickly, and Chen Jianping and I smoothly obtained our divorce certificate, but our lives seemed unchanged. Chen Jianping was busy with work, I took care of the home, and even during social events, we always appeared together, still looking like the loving couple in the eyes of relatives and friends. Some time later, on the day Lu Yiting turned 20, Chen Jianping and she got their marriage certificate. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, Chen Jianping drove Chen Kong and Lu Yiting. I dragged my already packed suitcase, took one last look around, and left the house. I had rented out all 3 apartments I bought. I chose the one with the best location and interior, paid 3 months' rent as a penalty to break the lease, and the tenant happily moved out. When I moved in and looked at the empty rooms, I felt a sense of ease and peace I hadn't known in a long time. No more worrying about whether Jianping Chen was drinking despite knowing he had a fatty liver. No more dealing with the endless stream of his relatives coming around looking for handouts. And not even having to fret about how Kong Chen was getting along with his roommates or if his allowance was enough. I slept soundly and dreamlessly through the night until morning. I got up the next morning, had a leisurely breakfast, and then relaxed completely, snacking on fruit while catching up on the trashy short drama I'd been following. After a whole night away, Chen Jianping must have realized I'd left, but he didn't call once. He must have known that I knew. My mind was perfectly calm, without a ripple of disturbance. Intense love and hate both take too much energy. I'm long past that age. Chen Kong contacted me a week later. As soon as we met, he hurried to explain, "Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to lie to you. I just felt." "Chen Kong," I cut him off. "There's no point in saying these things now." Chen Kong grew anxious. "So you and Dad aren't getting back together?" I smiled. "You came to see me out of the blue, so you must already know the truth. How can you still be so naive?" He fell silent. After a long pause, Chen Kong told me that Chen Jianping had said what happened with Lu Yiting was an accident, but the child was innocent. Chen Jianping said he didn't want to hurt me, but he also couldn't bear to part with the child, so Chen Kong agreed to deceive me together with his father. But this weekend, when I came home, I walked in on Chen Jianping and Lu Yiting kissing in front of a client. Only then did I realize the whole charade was designed to trick me into divorcing. Seeing how deeply shaken he was, I reminded him, Chen Kong, Lu Yiting's baby is due soon, isn't it? He was taken aback. Your dad booked Lu Yiting a VIP suite at a private hospital that costs thousands a night. The postpartum care center is 50,000 a month. I heard he even hired 2 nannies, one to look after her recovery, and another just for the baby. And then there's all the designer clothes, the jewelry, the latest phone, plus the 300,000 he gave her as compensation. Has your father ever been that generous with you? Your father is only 50 now, with Lu Yiting whispering in his ear, Chen Kong. How much of his fortune do you really think you'll end up with? Chen Kang's face instantly drained of color. 11. After a long pause, Chen Kong asked, Mom, are you giving up on me too? I didn't bring up how he had deceived me, and just said calmly, you're an adult now. He said resentfully, Mom, I'm your only son. I smiled. I suppose that was his trump card. I have money, I can hire a nurse, and when I can't get around anymore, I can move into a retirement home. I have nephews and nieces on my side of the family. As long as I have money, I'm sure they'd be more than willing to support me in my old age. I looked at Chen Kang's grim expression and said, after all, we're mother and son. Let me give you one last piece of advice. Your father probably feels pretty guilty towards you right now. You should seize this chance and get as much out of him as you can. And as for Lu Yiting, since you have leverage over her, you should be able to squeeze some money out of her too. He stared at me in shock. Mom, I lost the desire to keep talking to him. Let's just leave it at that. We should both move on and live our own lives. There's no need to keep in touch except for matters as serious as life and death. A look of embarrassment flashed across Chen Kang's face, and he stormed off. Before leaving, he even threw a parting shot at me. You'll regret this. After he was gone, I felt a knot in my stomach. As expected, a son is different from a man, but I quickly pulled myself together. There was still so much to do. I took Zhongwei, the factory's second in command, to quite a few places. Though it was tiring, the groundwork laid during the New Year period helped things go relatively smoothly. Zhang Wei said with a grateful expression, Sister Lin, you're the real hero for making this happen. Hearing that, Sister Lin made me smile. No wonder I get along with this person. It's all your own skill. I just played a small part in making the connection. A flash of pride crossed his eyes, but his words remained humble. Sister Lin, without you making the connection, I could have all the fabric in the world and still not make a garment. After exchanging pleasantries for a while, we were both quite satisfied. I'm doing all this not just to give Chen Jianping a hard time, but also because there's something in it for me. Zhang Wei promised me a substantial sum, and even though he hasn't delivered yet, all I have for now is an IOU. I have faith in his ability to come through. Starting a factory is no simple feat. There are countless hurdles to clear: securing licenses, leasing a facility, purchasing equipment, hiring workers. Yet he managed to pull it all off in just 2 or 3 months, and Zhang Wei has nearly dug a hole under Chen Jianping's foundation. But Chen Jianping still has no idea. The thought of it makes me want to feel sorry for him. 12. Chen Jianping has been riding high lately. Lu Yiting gave birth to a son for him, over the moon. He threw a lavish first-month celebration at a 5-star hotel. Quite a few people in his social circle posted photos and videos. Chen Jianping, with his arm around Lu Yiting and their youngest son in his arms, was grinning from ear to ear. Chen Kong is also in the group photo, and he's smiling, genuinely, from the heart, thinking about Chen Kang's thankful for dad social media post and that new car worth over $500,000. I wasn't really surprised. Men are all like that. Many of our mutual relatives and friends also came to me asking for updates, and I simply said, it's just as you've seen. Some were cursing Chen Jianping for having no conscience. Others were sarcastically saying I'd worked hard all my life only to end up doing the work of a mistress, and there were even those who pretended to comfort me while secretly waiting to see the show. I've lived half my life and long ago realized a truth: idle gossip doesn't affect me. What matters is what I actually have in my hands, and Chen Jianping won't be celebrating for much longer either. Zhang Wei was poaching employees a bit too aggressively. At first, Chen Jianping didn't even notice, since turnover at the garment factory was already quite high. After Zhang Wei left, Chen Jianping couldn't find a suitable replacement right away, so he took over the responsibilities himself for the time being. Yet he was so immersed in the bliss of his loving wife and young child that he remained unaware until the factory's shipment deadline was fast approaching. With progress still far from complete by this time, 1/3 of the factory's experienced workers had already been poached by Zhang Wei. Upon closer inspection, It turned out that several pattern masters and even team leaders who managed others had been poached. According to Zhang Wei, Chen Jianping called and chewed him out for a solid half hour. Left with no choice, Chen Jianping had to hastily hire a new batch of workers and outsource part of the order just to barely manage the delivery, and that wasn't the end of it. The rushed production compromised the quality of the shipment. Leaving the buyer extremely dissatisfied, Zhang Wei said he's working on securing this client, with an 80% chance of bringing them on board. Hearing that news, I ended up eating an extra bowl of rice, and this is just the beginning. Chen Jianping suddenly realized that his longtime clients had abruptly stopped working with him. Upon inquiring, he found out that Zhang Wei had undercut him by offering a 10% discount to snatch the orders away. Acquiring new clients isn't something that happens overnight. Chen Jianping has been running himself ragged, but his efforts are barely making a dent. No one expected that a factory with a few hundred employees would suddenly seem on the verge of shutting down. Chen Kong called me and said, "Mom, Dad's in the hospital. The doctor said he might be paralyzed." 13. Chen Kong mentioned that Chen Jianping has been swamped with factory business lately, coming home every night after midnight from client dinners. But you can't build a business just by sharing a few meals and drinks. Things are different now compared to a decade ago. The barriers to entry in the garment factory business aren't that high anymore, and competition is fierce. Zhang Wei has always wanted to go out on his own, so why hasn't he made a move? If it weren't for me bringing him clients, no matter how frustrated he felt, he'd still be stuck at that factory, biding his time and waiting for an opportunity. Although Chen Jianping had hired new staff, there were too many inexperienced workers and management was lacking. The defect rate of the products became unacceptably high, which left even his few remaining loyal clients dissatisfied and completely ruined his reputation. This created a vicious cycle, and the factory's situation deteriorated further under the immense pressure. Chen Jianping collapsed after being rushed to the hospital. An examination revealed he had suffered a stroke, a severe one that left one side of his body paralyzed. It said that even after regaining consciousness, he could barely speak coherently. After some thought, I bought 2 pounds of apples and headed to the hospital. I had a special gift waiting for him. Lu Yiting was nowhere to be seen in the hospital room. Instead, it was Chen Kong sitting by the bed, wiping away drool with a tissue, a picture of filial devotion. He saw that I was very emotional, muttering something under my breath. I listened closely and could barely make out that he was cursing at me. "Goodness," I exclaimed with feigned surprise. "It's only been a little while, and look at you now." He grew even more agitated, opening his mouth to curse me again. But before a single word could escape, drool trickled out instead. Chen Kong said disapprovingly, "Mom, Dad's sick. Can you please stop talking for a bit?" Then she carefully wiped the drool from Chen Jianping's mouth. "Dad, the doctor said you shouldn't get excited. Let's talk slowly, okay?" Watching this heartwarming scene of a father's kindness and a son's filial piety, I couldn't help but wonder, was Chen Kong truly devoted? Or was he secretly plotting something? But then I thought about that rental apartment I never managed to move out of, and it struck me as kind of ridiculous. What a shame it would be if Chen Jianping missed such exciting news. So I opened my phone, selected an exceptionally thrilling clip, and shoved it right in front of Chen Jianping's face. He froze for a moment, then glared furiously at Chen Kong. %UN hashtag asterisk %UN asterisk. Asterisk hashtag a percent hashtag. Chen Kong was initially confused, then leaned in to take a look, and was stunned at that moment. The equipment attached to Chen Jianping emitted a piercing alarm. I turned to Chen Jianping. Half of his face was rigid, the other half twitching, making him look grotesque and terrifying. His eyes were tightly shut, clearly overwhelmed by the shock. He had fainted. 14. Doctors and nurses rushed in, their faces tense as they began the emergency resuscitation. Chen Kong and I were kicked out of the ward. Chen Kong ran a frustrated hand through his hair and asked, "Mom, what exactly do you want? What's in it for you?" I stared at him with a blank expression, my eyes cold and devoid of emotion. "If I don't do this, am I going to get my legs broken?" Chen Kang's face turned pale in an instant. That day I went to the rental unit to remove the surveillance camera, only to find someone still living there. Out of curiosity, I checked the surveillance footage and found that Chen Kong and Lu Yiting occasionally hang out here. If that were all, I'd have let it go. But I clearly overheard them talking about how to make me accidentally break my leg, so Chen Kong could step in and take care of me. Then, once I was touched, wouldn't I just forgive him? If that doesn't work, then let Chen Kong get some terminal illness or something. He's my only son. How could I possibly stand by and watch him die? Hearing Chen Kang's smug calculations, a sharp pang of pain shot through my heart. "This is the fine son I raised with my own 2 hands," Chen Kong tried to explain. Further, Mom, I only said that to trick Lu Yiting into giving me information. I didn't mean it. You're my own mother. Why on earth would I ever hurt you? I let out a derisive snort. It's not like this is the first time you've hurt me. His face flushed, then paled. I had no interest in dragging this out with him, so I turned and left, no matter how hard I tried to distance myself from Chen Kong. Deep down I couldn't shake the hope that he was just too young, that he'd been taken in by Chen Jianping's smooth talk. After all, he's my own flesh and blood, but this time, I've completely given up hope. The next day, I signed up for a tour group and set off for the grasslands amidst the vast landscape. My heart felt as though it were being healed. I completely forgot about Chen Jianping and his son, having a great time and getting hooked, so I set off from the vast grassland and flew straight to the island. Then came the forests, deserts, and snow-covered villages. It was 3 months before I made it back home. I just got back and heard that Lu Yiting had skipped town with the money. 15. After being discharged from the hospital, Chen Jianping suffered a stroke and became paralyzed. The already teetering factory finally went under after Chen Jianping found out about Chen Kong and Lu Yiting. Before he could even react, Lu Yiting, who had gotten wind of the news, sold off everything in the house. Word has it that when Chen Jianping finally got home, the place was practically stripped bare. Not much different from an empty shell. Chen Jianping called the police, but they said it was a domestic dispute and couldn't get involved. After Lu Yiting took the money and ran, it was Chen Kong who ended up benefiting from the whole mess. After going through all that, Chen Jianping may have finally come to a profound realization, or maybe he was just afraid Chen Kong would pull out his oxygen tube next time. Either way, he forgave Chen Kong, and now the father-son relationship is quite harmonious. When Lu Yiting ran away, she didn't take the child with her. Chen Jianping hired a nanny to care for the boy, who wasn't particularly well treated but wasn't abused either. After I got back, both Chen Kong and Chen Jianping came to see me, spouting nonsense about how they realized they were wrong, how I'm still the best, and wanting to get back together. But every time they come looking for me, I'll go smash up the Chen family's place. After a few times, Chen Jianping gave in first and never came to see me again. As for Chen Kong, he was too busy trying to squeeze money out of Chen Jianping to have any energy left to bother me. My life is incredibly fulfilling. I attend senior university, travel, and dance in the square. Every day is full of joy and meaning. The younger relatives on my mother's side know I'm well off, so they all compete to win my favor, showering me with plenty of emotional support. So what if they're not truly filial? I don't care anyway. I still have 20 or 30 years to live, and the thought of spending the rest of my life in such comfort makes me laugh out loud even in my dreams. The end. Story 2. On the eve of the National College entrance examination, the male god I had a crush on turned into a hamster. He was like a soft glutinous rice ball. I couldn't help but need him, and he opened his mouth and bit me. Don't touch me, he warned me harshly. Later, he turned back into the cold and aloof academic god, but I took the initiative to stay away from him. However, he leaned his head over and said haughtily, "Touch me, my name is Yan Jia, and I'm an ordinary senior high school student in grade 3. Every day after school and on my way home, I have to pass by the flower and bird market downstairs. Until that day, all the peace was broken by a scream, 'Damn hamster, don't come near me.'" Ah, I stopped. The voice was so familiar. I looked around but didn't see that familiar figure. Ah, go away, don't poop beside me, damn it. I came to a complete stop. This was definitely the voice of Liang Yuxing. I scanned around a few times and finally fixed my eyes on that nest of hamsters. I saw a small golden hamster scurrying around in the box. It was frantically stepping on the heads of other hamsters to climb up, and its little feet were pedaling so fast that they seemed to be spinning like a whirlwind. I heard it shouting, "Help, help, why does it stink so much?" I squatted down and pushed it, which had climbed to the edge of the box, back into the group of hamsters. Sure enough, I heard it cursing loudly, "You blind thing, go to hell." I was amused by its chattering voice. After all, this was a huge contrast to him. "Liang Yuxing, is that you?" I asked softly. I spent the money for a week's worth of breakfast to rescue Liang Yuxing from that nest of hamsters to prevent my mother from finding out. I could only keep him in my room. I made a small nest for him out of a shoebox, lined it with a layer of wood shavings, and used 2 bottle caps to hold his food and water. "You seem to be quite poor," he said. "I don't have enough money," I explained. He snorted and rolled around in the wood shavings a few times. So cute. I really wanted to knead him. I couldn't control myself and started to pet him. He gave me a bite with a woof sound. "Don't touch me." "Sorry." I withdrew my hand sheepishly. "What's your name again?" He poked his head out of the wood shavings and looked at me. I said helplessly, "My name is Yan Jia. We've been classmates for 3 years. After all, as expected, he had no impression of me at all. "Oh, I know you. You're one of the only 2 senior 3 students in the class who got the exemption from living on campus. Because the other one is me," he said proudly, in a tone as if he had just solved a difficult math problem. My eyes lit up. He still remembered me. Every day after the evening self-study at 9 o'clock. A few scattered day students would leave the school in groups, only I deliberately dawdled and walked behind him while wearing headphones. His family's driver would pick him up at the school gate and take him home. I would walk to the bus stop to wait for the last bus. When I was lucky, his car window would open as it passed by, and I could catch a glimpse of his cold side profile. "But why can you hear me talking?" He chewed on the small cookies. "I don't know, but why did you turn into a hamster?" I lay on the table and looked at him. "I woke up like this in the morning," he said in a puzzled tone. His movement of eating cookies even stopped, and his cheeks were puffed out. "No wonder you didn't come to class today. The classmates were all saying that you transferred to another school." "Bullshit. I feel like I'm dreaming." He started chewing again. I couldn't help but laugh softly. I had never expected Liang Yuxing to talk so much. He usually came and went alone at school and was very mysterious, except for being called by the teacher to answer questions in class. Few people ever heard him speak, but it's good like this. "I'm free," he said as he crunched on the cookies. I was surprised and said, "But we're about to take the National College Entrance Examination. Aren't you worried?" "I've already been guaranteed admission," he said. "I really shouldn't have asked that. Thank you for helping me, classmate Yan Jia," he said. "You're welcome." I waved my hand. After he had eaten and drunk his fill, he yawned, burrowed into the wood shavings, and went to sleep. His soft body curled up into a ball. The alarm clock showed that it was almost 12 o'clock. The faint moonlight outside the window fell in front of the desk. I stretched out my finger to poke him, but there was no response. I poked him again, and he turned over. He was sound asleep. I gently turned off the table lamp. "Good night, Liang Yuxing. Now I can't wait to run home as soon as school is over every day. I have to feed my hamster." "Oh, no, I have to feed Liang Yuxing. You're a bit late coming back today." He poked his head out of the small box where he was sleeping. That was the small nest I made for him out of a milk carton. I handed him a blueberry I bought and explained, "Old Zhu asked us to do a test paper today, so I'm late." He held the blueberry and took 2 bites. "Let me see." I hesitated because my math test paper was still 3 points short of a passing grade, while he usually scored close to full marks. "I won't laugh at you." He saw through my hesitation at a glance. "Okay," I said. After he finished half of the blueberry, he wiped his hands and feet. He was so cute. "Put me on the table," he said. "Okay." I reached my hand into the shoebox, and he climbed onto my palm. He was so soft. I carefully placed him on the desk and spread the test paper out in front of him. He lay on the desk and took a couple of looks. Hee hee. I heard him dryly laugh twice. He stood up, stretched out his little hand, and pointed at a multiple-choice question on the test paper. "Classmate Yan Jia, we learned the solution to this function problem in our first year of senior high school." I scratched my nose. "My foundation isn't very good." He nodded. "You're really a bit silly. Silence is the Cambridge tonight." This sentence is a reference to Sujima's poem, here used to describe the awkward silence. "I'll teach you. Maybe I'll have to rely on you for the rest of my hamster life." He sighed. "Great," I said happily. From that day on, I prepared a straw for Liang Yuxing as a teaching stick. He held the straw and poked at the test paper. "Do you understand this question?" I nodded repeatedly. Liang Yuxing was really smart. Unlike most academic gods, he could fully understand and teach those with lower levels. After explaining a physics test paper, I felt refreshed and fully understood everything. He plopped down on the desk and sat there. "I'm so tired," he groaned and rubbed his head. "I feel like we're acting out a story from Strange Tales from a Lonely Studio." I couldn't help but say. He glanced at me, and I smiled. "I'm the scholar going to take the imperial examination. I'm not a fairy." He turned his back to me and raised his 2 little hands angrily. "I want to eat chestnuts," he said. I took a candied chestnut and handed it to him. He held it and gnawed on it. His back moved as he ate. He seemed to have gained a lot of weight. He was already as big as one of my palms and was like a ball. I couldn't help but poke him. "My classmates said that your parents applied for a long leave for you because you're sick. What kind of illness?" He turned around and asked. "I don't know. The head teacher said that he would organize student representatives to visit you, but your parents said that you're still in a coma and it's not suitable for a visit." He seemed to be deep in thought. "My parents are back. Rare. Do you live alone?" I asked. He hummed in agreement. "I caught a cold and went to bed early that day. Maybe I had a fever in the middle of the night and my soul left my body." I suddenly understood. Can this be explained by quantum mechanics? He was taken aback. and I said weakly, didn't they say, when in doubt, use quantum mechanics, it's more reliable to be like in Liaojai. He replied. I burst out laughing. Suddenly, there was a rapid knock on the door. Jie, you're still awake. Didn't I say that you're not allowed to lock the door? Open it quickly. It was my mother who came back. I quickly put Liang Yuxing into the shoebox and covered it with the lid. The knocking on the door became more and more urgent. I opened the bedroom door in a flurry. Mom, my mother pushed me aside and strode in. She looked around warily. I was terrified. The shoebox was still on the table. Who were you talking to on the phone? Didn't I say that with the college entrance examination coming up soon, you should focus? She walked to the table, pulled the curtains shut with a swish, and her gaze fell on the shoebox on the table. Mom, I suddenly let out a scream. There's a cockroach at your feet. My mother was startled by my shout. Where is it? I pointed at the space under the bed in a flurry. It crawled in. It crawled in. My mother walked over angrily and slapped me. Don't make a fuss. She went to the living room to get the insecticide. I immediately stuffed the shoebox into the quilt and hid it. Then I turned around and pretended to tidy up the homework on the table. You're so old and still afraid of cockroaches. I've told you that the insecticide is in the cabinet under the TV. You should spray it. From time to time, as my mother sprayed the insecticide, she said, after you finish the college entrance examination, my task will be completed. You'll go to university, and I'll live in the dormitory of my work unit. I'll sell this old house and buy you an apartment with an elevator in the future. I quickly said, Mom, go take a shower. I've already boiled the water for you. My mother stood up and rubbed her shoulders wearily. All right, open the door and the windows to let in some air. I'll heat up some milk for you. Drink it before you go to sleep. I massaged her shoulders and back and pushed her towards the door, acting coquettishly. Thank you, Mom, I can do it myself. Before my mother entered the bathroom, she still didn't forget to remind me, remember, you can only heat the milk in a porcelain bowl. Stay away from the microwave when heating it. You'll be a college student soon. Don't you know there's radiation? I immediately moved far away from the microwave and said, I understood. When I saw her close the bathroom door, I finally let out a sigh of relief. Liang Yuxing, are you okay? I quickly ran into the bedroom and took out the shoebox. As soon as I opened the lid, the water and food in the bottle were all spilled over. I saw him lying slumped on the wood shavings, curled up into a ball. Half of his fur was wet, and his small pink hands and feet were curled up in front of his chest. He looked like he was about to die. His voice trembled. Maybe. Can I sue you for animal abuse? I put my hands together. Sorry. I quickly made a new home for him. As if resigned to his fate, he let me hold him in my hands and knead him. Classmate Yan Jia, I have to remind you that you don't need to wipe some parts so carefully. He covered his face with his hands. Classmate Liang Yuxing, you're just a hamster now. If I don't dry you, I'm afraid you'll get sick. I said. I changed to a dry towel and wiped him again, then put him into his new nest. He turned around a few times in the new nest. It seems that I can't see the light when I'm with you. Your mother probably won't like you having a hamster. My mother doesn't like me keeping any small animals. I once wanted to adopt a kitten that was abandoned by its mother cat. My mother said that if I did, she would abandon me just like the kitten was abandoned by its mother. I soothed him. Just make do with it for now. I'll take you with me when I go to university. There was a hint of a smile in his voice. Is this a promise? I nodded solemnly. Of course. As soon as the bell rang for the end of the noon school day, a group of people swarmed towards the cafeteria. The air conditioner in the classroom was cool. The small fan in front of me was turning in circles, blowing the stray hairs and fine sweat on my forehead. My hand ached from holding the pen. I shook my wrist and continued to do the questions. The clock ticked on silently. Occasionally, I could hear the sound of a few classmates in the classroom turning the pages of their test papers. After finishing 2 test papers, I circled a few questions with unclear knowledge points to reinforce them. I reached out my hand to the desk drawer. There was still a stack of test papers issued today. Jie, let's go eat. My deskmate Jiang Rong gently patted my shoulder. Okay. There were only some leftovers in the cafeteria, and they didn't look appetizing at all. Jiang Rong and I went to the 3rd floor to buy handheld pancakes and sat under the magnolia tree on the playground to enjoy the cool breeze. Jie, I find that you're really hardworking. Jiang Rong took a bite of the pancake in her hand. After a pause, she added, you definitely have no problem getting into a prestigious university. I smiled shyly. I can't get such a high score. She clenched her fist and said, there are still 2 months left. Believe in yourself. I nodded in agreement. Now I not only have to work hard for my mother and my future but also fulfill my promise to Liang Yuxing. Let's go back to the classroom. I stood up. Jiang Rong shook her head. You really don't take a break at all, I smiled. There's still the last mock exam. The slow bird should start flying early. Just as we were talking and laughing, I suddenly saw a very familiar Bentley. Two people got out of the car. They were Liang Yuxing's parents. The dean of students was leading them upstairs. Liang Yuxing's parents were both tall and thin. They were dressed in black and had serious expressions. My heart skipped a beat. Could something have happened to Liang Yuxing? Jiang Rong was surprised and said, "Aren't those the parents of the academic god? Are they going to the principal's office?" I followed them on an impulse. Sneakily, I followed them to the 5th floor. I saw that they indeed entered the principal's office, and the door wasn't fully closed. I sneaked over to the side. My palms were sweating nervously. The school is really sorry about Liang Yuxing's matter. We also hope that he can wake up soon. If there's anything the school can do to cooperate and help, we'll do it without hesitation, the principal said. Principal Dong, you're too kind. We'll take him to a hospital outside the province. When the child wakes up, he won't come back to school. I hope we can sort out the transfer of his student status clearly, Liang Yuxing's parents said. Of course, of course. When I heard them getting up, I immediately ran downstairs. My heart was pounding as if it was about to jump out. After school, I pushed open the bedroom door without even having time to change my shoes and poked Liang Yuxing, who was sleeping. Awake. Your parents are going to take you away. He opened his eyes sleepily. Huh. I repeated what had happened today to him. He let out an "oh" and slowly climbed into the running wheel to start his exercise for the day. Aren't you worried that you'll keep being in a coma and won't be able to change back? I asked him. How many years is a person's lifespan? He asked me while panting. As he ran, I didn't understand why he asked that, but I still replied, about 80 years if there's no accident. What about a hamster? He asked again. 2 or 3 years, so I'll be free in 2 or 3 years instead of having to endure for 80 years. I didn't know how to respond to that for a moment. I watched as he finished his exercise for the day, then he went to drink water and carefully groomed his fur. Isn't it good to be a human? Besides, you're Liang Yuxing, I asked in confusion. He smiled. You're not a fish. How do you know the joy of a fish? Besides, it's really good now. You're taking care of me, and you can talk to me. My greatest pleasure every day is waiting for you to come back. Hearing him say that, I proudly puffed out my chest. That's true. I'll take good care of you. I took out the melon seed kernels I had bought from my school bag, honey flavored. I want the sea salt flavor next time, he said, lowering his head and nibbling on the melon seed kernels. Okay, I stroked him, and he didn't resist. I suddenly thought that this wasn't so bad either. The weather became hotter and more sweltering. The high pressure of the college entrance examination hung over every student, making everyone sweat. At noon, no one left the classroom anymore. The small fan in front of us kept turning nonstop, and bread and cookies had become everyone's regular meal. My mother took a leave from her work unit. She cooked for me every day and brought me a packed lunch. She would ride an electric scooter to pick me up and take me home without fail, rain or shine. I was completely stunned when I saw the results of the mock exam. It was still some distance from the score I had expected, and it was even lower than my score in the first mock exam. Old Zhu called me to the office before the evening self-study. He said that I had been studying too nervously recently and comforted me to relax my mind and not put too much pressure on myself. I agreed to everything he said. It was only after I came out of the office that I hid in the restroom and cried. I had always known that I didn't have high learning aptitude and could only make up for it with hard work, but I just wanted to be a little better than my former self. Was it really that impossible? After the evening self-study, my mother didn't come to pick me up. She must have learned about my grades from the head teacher. I didn't know how to face her, so I dawdled all the way to the downstairs of my home. I suddenly caught a glimpse of a familiar shoebox stuffed in the trash can. Ignoring the dirt, I quickly went over and picked it up. The wood shavings and food inside were dirty and scattered in a mess. Liang Yuxing wasn't there. I looked up. On the 4th floor, the light in my bedroom was on. A bad premonition welled up in my heart. Mom, what are you doing? I quickly walked into the room. She had cleaned my bedroom inside and out. Mom, did you throw away my shoebox? I asked. So what if I did? She said with a cold face. Where's my hamster? My voice trembled. She threw the mop in her hand forcefully and shouted shrilly, Yan Jia, have you grown so bold? Look at your scores yourself. How can you be half-hearted and imitate others by keeping a pet? If you can't get into a university, it'll be hard for you to support yourself. Tears welled up in my eyes involuntarily. Where did you throw my hamster? It was eaten by a wildcat. What else are you asking for? I've been working so hard to take care of you every day. Have you ever asked me a word? I've spent half my life for you. If you can't get into a good school, Your life will be ruined, you might as well stop studying. My heart ached as if it was being fried and burned by fire. My hot tears blurred my vision. I didn't ask you to do it for me. I wanted to go with my dad in the first place. It was you who insisted on making me stay by your side. My mother was so angry that her emotions flared up. You ungrateful wretch. Do you think your dad and that woman will treat you well? Why are you so unreasonable? I vented uncontrollably. Yes, I don't want them to be good to me. At least I won't be a burden to you. I've never dared to make you dissatisfied or unhappy because I know you've done everything for me. But I'm really tired. I'd rather die. Slap. A clear slap landed on my face. My face suddenly burned and swelled up. There was a buzzing sound in my ears, and I was completely stunned. From now on, I won't care about you anymore. My mother picked up the mop and rushed into the bathroom to rinse it. The sound of running water was very loud. I cried hysterically for a while. Suddenly, I remembered something. I immediately raised my hand to dry my tears. Liang Yuxing. I checked under the bed and in the cabinet, but he wasn't there. I had to go out and look for him. I ran to the garbage bin downstairs. The garbage truck had already finished collecting the trash. I called his name anxiously. Liang Yuxing, where are you? Are you in there, little girl? Get out of the way, the truck is reversing. The driver reminded me. Liang Yuxing. I started shouting, feeling extremely flustered. There were many wild cats in the neighborhood, and he would be in great danger if he was outside. The garbage truck drove away, and my tears poured down. I walked through several streets and alleys but couldn't find him. I had killed him. All the bitterness and sadness I had experienced today welled up together. I squatted on the ground and couldn't stop crying. I even thought it was an illusion. When Liang Yuxing called me several times, Yan Jia, a small, dirty thing appeared in front of me. I wiped my tears hard and finally saw that it was Liang Yuxing. His fur was all wet, clumped together, and there were some rotten vegetable leaves stuck to it. He looked pitiful and funny. I reached out my hand to pick him up, and he jumped onto it. He said in a trembling voice, "Stop crying, I won't die." "Sorry," I sobbed and apologized. "What are you sorry for? I'm still alive, aren't I?" He shivered and curled up. "Take me home quickly, I stink. I'll hide you well this time," I choked out. "Okay." He fell asleep in my palm. It took a week for Liang Yuxing to regain his vitality, and his fur finally became shiny and smooth. I made a semi-open nest for him. If my mother found out again, the new home would be more convenient for him to escape. I also quickly got over the failure in the mock exam and focused on preparing for the college entrance examination, which was less than 30 days away. Liang Yuxing accompanied me to do my homework until very late every day. One late night, I was so sleepy that I squinted on the table for a while. He lay on my arm and slept soundly. After that, he developed a habit of lying on my arm to sleep every day. The moonlight outside the window was bright, and the street was very quiet. The clock showed 1 o'clock. The hissing sound of the current from the table lamp and the rustling sound of the pen on the paper were clearly audible. I stopped writing only when the ink in the pen ran out. "You got all the answers right this time," Liang Yuxing said, stretching himself. I didn't know when he woke up. "Really?" My eyes lit up. "When you're not so tense, you can answer the questions very smoothly." He yawned and raised his pink paws to wash his face. Suddenly, there was a knock on the bedroom door. I quickly covered Liang Yuxing in my hand. "Go to bed early. I put your packed lunch in your bag. There's also a pack of nuts to boost your brain power. Remember to eat them at school," my mother said. "Okay, thank you, Mom," I replied. In the past few days, my mother and I had fallen into a cycle of being at odds with each other. I wanted to apologize to her but couldn't bring myself to do it. Besides cooking for me, she didn't pay much attention to me either. "Your mother is so good to you, unlike my parents," Liang Yuxing muttered. I thought about it seriously and replied, "Because you're very independent and can do everything well. You don't need anyone to worry about you." Suddenly, he jumped onto the table. "Can you open the window a little?" I opened the window halfway. A cool breeze blew in, and the bright moonlight fell softly. Liang Yuxing looked up at the moon. "Actually, when I was sick that day, I could have called the hospital myself, but I didn't want to." "Why?" I asked. He lay on the table. "Because I wanted them to come back and see me. And I also wanted them not to get a divorce, so that's how it was." "No wonder he wasn't in a hurry to change back at all." The academic god, who was usually omnipotent, was showing his vulnerability. I didn't know how to comfort him. Before I could find the right words to say, he rolled on the table. "So embarrassing. Why do I talk so much after becoming a hamster?" I was amused by him. "But this is very real. Do you feel happy?" "Of course." He got up. "And because I met you, I feel free." He climbed into my palm. "Thank you, Yan Jia." "You're welcome," I said. He wriggled his chubby body. "Then you can touch me for a while." I blushed and laughed. I held him in my hand and petted him. He squinted his eyes comfortably and let me scratch his neck and head. When I rubbed his belly, he let out a cry and resisted my fingers with his hands and feet. "You can't touch me here." "Sorry." I put him back in his nest. He burrowed into it without looking back, as if he was shy. It was the last class before the college entrance examination. "Classmates, do you have confidence for tomorrow?" Old Jew stood on the podium and shouted. Yes, the whole class slapped the desks and cheered. The countdown to the college entrance examination on the wall showed only a bright one. I clapped along in a daze. There were bursts of cheering and shouting in the corridor outside. Countless white test papers and books fluttered in the air. As if it was snowing heavily, the classmates all rushed out to shout at the building. I saw that the white magnolias outside the window were in full bloom. After tidying up the books in the classroom, I realized that my youth was very heavy. It was so heavy that it took 2 full suitcases to pack it all. But it also passed by very quickly, like an arrow flying through the air. I would be taken to the place designated by fate before I had time to appreciate the scenery along the way. The night before the college entrance examination was extremely stuffy. I buried my head in front of the desk and reviewed the formulas and ancient poems that I had already memorized thoroughly. My mother knocked gently on the door outside. "Have you prepared everything?" She came in and checked my folder. She felt relieved only after confirming that everything was in order. My mother gave me a few more instructions, and I remembered them all in my heart. "Jeja, what Mom did that day was really wrong. Mom shouldn't have thrown away your hamster. I hope you won't let this affect your mood," my mother said. "No. It was my fault for losing my temper with you. I was wrong," I said guiltily. My mother held my hand tightly. "Do your best in the exam. After the exam, Mom will agree to whatever you want to do." "Thank you, Mom." I hugged her, and my heart was so sour that I almost shed tears. "Go to sleep quickly and get enough rest," my mother said. She watched me lie down on the bed and turned off the light before leaving with peace of mind. I looked at the faint streetlight shining through the window but couldn't fall asleep no matter what. "Liang Yuxing." I called softly. There was a rustling sound, and a dent formed in my pillow. "So sleepy," Liang Yuxing groaned as he lay beside me. He had been sleeping a lot these days. Sometimes I was even afraid that he would die in his sleep. "I feel a bit nervous," I said. "The college entrance examination will be easier than the mock exam. Just keep a calm mind." He rubbed against my head. "You don't have to take the exam, so you definitely can't understand the nervousness," I said somewhat sourly, but he just smiled when he heard that. "Then what do you think the college entrance examination means to you?" I thought about it and replied, "It means a stepping stone, an important opportunity to change my destiny." "Well said," he said. "What about to you?" I turned my head and asked him. "An experience. Just an experience. Just like being a hamster. It's also an experience," he said lazily, kicking his legs. His furry body was very warm. "Aren't you afraid, for example? Afraid of failure? Even if it's just being a hamster, you'd be afraid of being abandoned by the owner, or being eaten by a cat, or starving to death and so on." Before he could speak, I pinched his face. "Don't tell me it's just another experience," he mumbled indistinctly. "Of course I'm afraid. I've been afraid of being alone since I was a child, and I'm also afraid of the dark." I was taken aback. "What kind of fear is that?" He snorted and turned his body to face away from me. "You asked me to say it. I didn't mean to laugh at you." I poked his butt. He moved his body and changed the topic. "I'm so sleepy. Go to sleep." I patted him gently. I only heard him murmur, "Yan Jia, because you're with me. I'm not afraid anymore. Now that I'm with you, you don't be afraid either." My heart skipped a beat, and I smiled with curved eyebrows. "Okay." After finishing the last exam, I walked to the school gate with the crowd. The setting sun near the evening was dazzlingly red. My mother was dressed beautifully. That light blue cheongsam suited her very well. "You've worked hard, my Jejia," she said, bringing me a bouquet of flowers. My heart was filled with warmth. "Thank you, Mom." We went to my uncle's house to have dinner with my grandmother, but when I picked up my phone, I subconsciously opened the app for memorizing words. I suddenly really wanted to see Liang Yuxing and tell him how I felt now. After dinner, I bought some nuts and rushed home. Liang Yuxing, I called for a long time, but he didn't climb out. I searched for him for a long time and finally found him lying motionless in the small nest I had made for him. My heart turned cold, and I called him softly. He still didn't move. I reached out my hand to touch him. His soft body had no warmth at all. My tears suddenly burst out like a flood. On the day I went back to school to get my graduation photo, I was in low spirits. The class was going to hold a graduation party, and the classroom had been decorated anew by everyone. It was festooned with lanterns and colored streamers. Everyone was taking photos to capture the moment, playing around, chatting and laughing. everyone's signatures were left on the school uniforms, making them look like a photo album of memories. Only Liang Yuxing wasn't there. Maybe he would never come back. I held the graduation photo in my hand, and he wasn't in it either. I even began to wonder whether the memories of our getting along in the past few months were real or not. Had Liang Yuxing really stayed by my side briefly? The performance on the podium had already started, from the roaring laughter during the sketch performance at the beginning to the tears welling up during the chorus. I suddenly felt very sad and turned my head away with red eyes. Jia, look at me. Jiang Rong handed me a glow stick and stuck a few cartoon patterns on my face. Don't cry, come on, smile. She pulled me to take a photo together, making funny faces that were very amusing. Old Zhu stood on the podium holding a microphone and said with emotion, "We can meet again anywhere in life, students, on your future journey. I only wish you a smooth road ahead, a bright future." Cheers and applause rose one after another. In the midst of this lively atmosphere, there was suddenly a knock on the door. Everyone looked towards the door. Standing by the door was none other than Liang Yuxing. His expression was calm, as if he were an old acquaintance who had arrived late. Old Zhu was very surprised. The classmates all crowded around to ask him when he had woken up and how he was feeling now. He responded to the classmates' concern in a somewhat unfamiliar way, like a cold and distant moon, but I could tell that he was nervous. He wasn't used to the attention and greetings from others and unconsciously clenched his right hand. Finally, everyone in the class was present, and the atmosphere of the party became even more lively. Liang Yuxing was pulled onto the podium by Old Zhu to speak. He expressed his gratitude for everyone's concern and wished the classmates academic success and a promising future. When he was speaking, he glanced in my direction, and his eyes naturally passed over me. I let out a sigh of relief. It was great that he was still alive. When the party ended at 9:30, the whole class took a group photo. This time, Liang Yuxing was finally in it. Everyone left the campus in groups. After saying goodbye to the classmates, I slowly walked to the bus stop and habitually put on my earphones. The summer night wind was very cool. As usual, there weren't many people at the bus stop. I had waited here countless nights, waiting for the last bus home. Until that day, I heard the inner voice of a hamster. Everything seemed to be different. Suddenly, there was another figure beside me. I turned my head and looked, feeling a bit surprised. Classmate Liang Yuxing, what a coincidence. Are you also waiting for the bus? Yeah. He stared straight ahead without distraction. Then we tacitly remained silent in the evening wind for 2 minutes. My bus is here, I said. Yeah. He nodded. Goodbye, I said, but he didn't respond to me. I got on the bus and sat in the last row. Liang Yuxing walked over without looking sideways and sat upright beside me. Does this bus go to your home? I asked curiously. Yes. He nodded affirmatively. Oh, I smiled. The bus started moving. The green shade outside the window swayed, and the lights were bright. I suddenly became interested. Have you read any fairy tales? I asked. About what? He replied. It's about a little hamster. He likes to eat sea salt-flavored melon seeds and honey-flavored chestnuts. He can also solve full-score college entrance examination questions, but he doesn't like to be touched, and he said he doesn't like being alone and is very afraid of the dark. Have you heard his story? I've heard of it a little. His ears were completely red. He really remembered. I took a deep breath and tried hard to hold back my tears. Suddenly, he leaned over and said with a haughty expression, "Touch me." I looked at him in surprise. He repeated, "Touch me." I raised my slightly trembling hand and gently placed it on his head. His hair was as soft as I had imagined, and his face was warm and delicate. I finally truly felt that Liang Yuxing was still alive and well. His face was so red that it seemed to be bleeding. He said in a hoarse voice, "Have you finished touching?" No. I held his face in both hands. He was caught off guard, and his eyes were filled with panic. I squeezed his face hard. Why did you suddenly die? There was no sign at all. He blinked his eyes pitifully. I didn't mean to. I had been waiting for you to come back that day, and then I was really, really sleepy. I let go of him, but he took my hand and placed it by his ear. I'm really back. Touch me again. Will you disappear again? I couldn't help feeling sad. No. I said I would stay with you, and you would stay with me too, right? He looked at me cautiously, and I nodded gently. It was the first time I looked into his eyes at such a close distance. I belatedly felt embarrassed. He was also a bit shy and silently sat up straight, but he still held my hand tightly. Our palms were both sweaty, but neither of us let go. On the day the college entrance examination results came out, my mother was so excited that she couldn't stop crying. Old Zhu patted me on the shoulder with satisfaction and told me to choose a school with confidence. After filling out the college application forms and coming out of the School, Liang Yuxing was standing at the school gate waiting for me under the shade of the trees in summer. He handed me a bottle of soda. Congratulations, you've finished an important battle. I took it and thanked him. It was indeed an unforgettable experience. Ah, go away, don't poop beside me, damn it. We walked side by side to the bus stop. I told him that my mother had bought me another little hamster. It was fluffy and very clingy, but it definitely can't be as cute as me. He raised his hand and put it on my shoulder. He took a sip of the soda, and his cheeks puffed up. His red lips were charming. I smiled and said, "Of course, you're the cutest." He obviously didn't expect me to say that. He was choked by the soda and coughed a few times. His face instantly turned red. "I'm not that cute either. You're the cutest, right, girlfriend? The bus is here." I pretended not to hear what he said clearly. "You're still my girlfriend even if the bus is here," he mumbled. "Got it, boyfriend." I stood on tiptoe and quickly kissed him. The sunlight shone down, and our youth was at its best. The end.